I'm joined now by Dave Aronberg, the current state attorney of Palm Beach County, Florida, and the former state senator there. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot to talk about. We have the president downtown on trial. We have the Supreme Court hearing a motion to, for hearing a case to make the president immune to prosecution. I don't know what that's all about. Palestinian protests all across American college campuses, and that's where I want to start with you because you're very passionate about that. I've been watching your social media, and I think it's important for you to weigh in. There's turmoil all across the country. Columbia, I think, was the heart of it. 300 people arrested there the other night. UCLA is going through it now, and then it's happening on college campuses. What do you make, many more college campuses, what do you make of the chaos?
It's frustrating for me as a prosecutor and as a Jewish person who went to Harvard, and I see these weak university administrators who have let this go this far. If this were any other group, if there were people encamped to say we support conversion therapy, something that is quackery, and that would...
For LGBTQ community.
Right, correct. To say that, hey, we support this to pray the gay away, and they set up camp. They would be removed yesterday. They would be suspended or expelled, and the police would be called in if they didn't leave. But for some reason, when you are talking about globalizing the intifada and you're chanting these anti-Semitic slogans, it depends on context. We heard it from their university presidents in front of Congress. And so this to me is offensive also as a prosecutor, because it's the universities who refuse to call in the police when it comes to enforcing criminal laws, whether it's trespass or assault. They have been really reticent to approach these protesters and to deal with them like they would deal with any other group.
But Dave, you said you believe in the right to protest, right?
Peaceful protest is an American trait. It's part of our country's history, and we should respect it. But when you break into buildings, at Columbia, that's where it leads. When you start to turn a blind eye to criminality, whether it's assault or how about violating your speech codes on campus? You try calling for the genocide of any other group on campus and see how far that gets you. Yeah. But for some reason, against the Jews, there's a higher level of tolerance for it. What do you think globalize the intifada means, right? What about from the river to the sea? That means taking Israel off the map. And where do the Jews go? And that's why these protesters are not doing their cause any good. See, they don't understand history or reality, because what they're calling for is a one-state solution, not a two-state solution. And Israel is not going anywhere, so they're not helping their cause.
They're calling for divestment. So do you think they know what it means? Does that, because you're saying a one-state solution, but they're saying they want divestment from the universities and to supporting Jewish causes and supporting, Jewish companies.
Yeah. BDS by its nature is anti-Semitic. When you single out the one democracy in the Middle East and you say that's the country we should punish, you have to wonder why. Why are you punishing the one country that actually espouses the same values that you claim to support? Religious tolerance, pluralism, women's rights. The largest gay pride parade outside the United States is in Tel Aviv. And so yet, they're chanting, queers for Palestine. When you go there and chant that in Gaza, see how far it gets you. You'll get thrown off a building. And as far as divestment, it's not so easy. It's not like Columbia University is sending aid to Israel. They're investing in funds like that Google. Have Google. Yeah, Google, which does business in Israel. Try divesting from funds that have Google as an asset. It's not so easy to do.
Well, you are a lawman, so to speak, right? You're a prosecutor. What do you make of some of the officers use rubber bullets in UCLA, and there's video of it. Let's play the video, and then you and I will discuss it.
So move back.
So the officers there are telling, them to stand back and warning some of the people there, but they're shooting rubber bullets at some of the students. What do you make of the use of force?
I wish it didn't have to come to this, but this is what happens when you have weak administrators who allow these folks to run amok on campus, and a lot of them are not students, they're outside agitators, and then the police have to be called in. And how do police deal with rioters? Well, you deal with it by escalating force, and eventually, if they don't disperse, you've got to do this. And I wish it hadn't come to this, but they left them no choice.
Is there a legal response from the students? Or from the university? Can the students say, "Hey, they used excessive force, and I'm going to sue"? Or
they can try. I mean, you see how self-entitled these privileged jihadists are. You saw the woman at Columbia University get in front of the cameras.
But even if they're injured by bullets, because on social media they're showing people that said they were injured by police rubber bullets. Do they have any sort of recourse there?
They can try, but they're not going to get anywhere. When they are committing crimes by refusing to leave, that's a trespass. And they continue to, like for example, in Colombia, when they break into the buildings, and if they didn't leave, yeah, they could be hit by rubber bullets, and you don't have an action against the police who are just trying to enforce the law. And they're not just starting with rubber bullets. They've asked them countless times to please disperse. And at some point when they don't, you have to act like this. What's the alternative, right? I mean, you're going to have to eventually grab them and get them out of there. So whether they grab them or use rubber bullets, they're going to have to use force.
The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, says the right to free speech does not extend to inciting violence, vandalism, or lawlessness on campus. Those who engage in illegal behavior must be held accountable for their actions, including through criminal prosecution, suspension, or expulsion.
Right, yeah. Actions have consequences. If they really believed in their global intifada, or their revolution, their protests, they have to take the consequences that come with it. Instead, they're demanding catering from Columbia University. They're upset that the food isn't being brought in. Talk about
that was one student. I mean, and she got from a lot. Even the people who supported her were saying, that's a bit, that's a bit crazy. In a matter of days, though, Dave, I have to ask you, the semester will be over, right? Some students they cancel classes, right? It's going to be online classes. So they're going to go home. Do you think they're going to continue these encampments where they are, or some going to stay on campus? What do you think happens now?
I don't know.
Does this spread across the country?
No, I think this is all in their little bubble where they really don't understand the history, the geopolitics. They just don't understand. They see a TikTok video and they think that they're an expert, or they hear it from their revolutionary professors who are indoctrinating them into falsities. I mean, to think that Israel is a colonizer, when Jews have been in that area for thousands of years. And so they're not basing their views on what's really going on. They're basing it on being trendy, on being hip, and what they're being told by a social media influencer. So when they go back home, I think they're going to be disabused by a lot of the notions that have driven them to this point.
Let's go now to what's happening downtown, and that is the former president. I cannot believe that we are here. Every day when I report this, or I get updates, or I go downtown and I observe the trial a little bit, I am shocked that a former president is in this position and that America is here, because now we are having today another gag order hearing, right? Regarding whether Trump once again violated his gag order. Judge Merchan the other day said that he did it 9 times, right? Mm-hmm. That he was in contempt, and he had to pay $1,000 for each, $9,000. And so, what do you think? So now, and the judge warned. He said, if you continue, we will put you in jail.
Right.
So what happens now when the judge rules on this? Do you think he's going to go to jail?
No.
You don't think they're going to put him in the jail in the basement, or?
Well, now it's different. You're talking about like timeout. Right?
I meant like timeout.
Oh yeah. They could put him in timeout like for a couple hours, but as far as wearing
behind bars in timeout.
It's like a holding room, perhaps, in the courthouse. I don't know. Maybe they do have a little cell inside the courthouse, but I don't believe he's ever going to wear an orange jumpsuit pre-trial.
No,
pre-trial.
Yeah.
Right.
Pre-trial.
Right. I do think that there could be a point, if it continues, that they send him to timeout.
Okay, but for the average citizen,
mm-hmm.
timeout would mean, according to attorneys who have actually, what is it? I guess would you call it prosecuted or litigated or what have you at that courthouse? Yeah. They say there's a jail in the basement. When you are found in contempt, you go and you sit in that jail, and it's behind. There are bars. You don't think that's going to happen to the former president?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Because,
why not? He's different. He's above the law.
He's different. Judges, what's the one thing judges hate more than anything else? They hate being called political, right? And so these judges, as a result, have overcompensated. Judge Engoron, who is getting abused by Trump constantly, and Trump was violating his gag order, Engoron fined him $15,000. Here you have Judge Merchan, a no-nonsense judge, fining him $9,000. I think he will continue to get fined. He'll continue to be treated differently than anyone else. Because if you and I did this, went out blasting the judges corrupt, we'd be wearing steel bracelets.
Yeah.
But for Trump,
we'd be at Rikers maybe.
Yeah, we would be. Seriously, I've never seen a defendant act like this and get away with it. But there is a two-tiered system of justice, as Trump supporters correctly say. But it's not against him. It's actually in his benefit.
It's actually in his benefit. He's actually getting special treatment. So let's see. He has called the judge's order totally unconstitutional. He said he doesn't feel that he should be, quote, sitting in a courthouse all day long listening to this stuff. I mean, he clearly doesn't expect to see the inside of a jail cell. He knows that he's different.
Yeah, that's correct. And
the judge may surprise you, though.
Well, let's see. Have me back on if that happens, because I'll be shocked.
Okay.
The thing with Trump, he's got 34 counts. It gets up to 4 years per count, but he's not going to serve, in my mind, any prison time in this trial. He could get probation, or perhaps at worst, maybe get some house arrest. But I do think, Don, he's going to be found guilty. I think this case is going better than anyone could have imagined.
What do you? That's the first time I've really heard that. You think he's going to be found guilty?
I do.
And okay, why?
Well, do you see David Pecker's testimony? Oh, that's right. There are no cameras in the courtroom. We're not allowed to watch it. Sorry. Thank you, New York, for the lack of transparency. And I say that sarcastically. We should be able to see this. But David Pecker, according to reports, was devastating to Trump. Remember, Pecker is not like Michael Cohen. He has no axe to grind against Trump. Yeah, he was under a non-prosecution agreement. But he gave up the ghost. He undermined 3 of Trump's best defenses. Really, he said Trump knew about this all along. So the whole "I know nothing" Sergeant Schultz defense ain't gonna fly.
This is Pecker, right? You said
Pecker,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
and this was confirmed by Davidson,
okay.
Who is Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal's lawyer.
Yeah, and who's going to be back on the stand?
Right.
Today. Okay, go on.
So he's got corroboration, right? All right. So also, the thing that Trump is saying is that even if this is a misdemeanor falsification of business records, it doesn't get elevated to a felony because there's no campaign finance violation here. This wasn't for the campaign. This was protect Melania and Ivanka from finding out about her dad. No, Pecker's saying this was about the campaign. That's why Stormy Daniels was paid 2 weeks before the election. That's why the NDA with the doorman expired right after the election. It was always about the campaign. Melania was never mentioned. And then the third major defense that Trump has is just to trash Michael Cohen. Say, yeah, this guy's a liar. He's a proven liar. He's a felon. You can't believe anything that he says, and thus the case goes away. But he just got corroboration through Pecker, through Davidson. So this case is really going well for prosecutors.
Okay, it's going well, and you think he's going to be found guilty, but you still say no jail. So then what happens?
I think he'll get either probation, which the judge could give, or
President getting probation, crazy. Go on, sorry. You're on probation. What does this mean? Like he can't go to across the river? He's already escorted everywhere he goes. I mean, what will probation mean for a president?
you get a series of things you can't do, and can't step out of line, can't and if you do, you go right to jail. But again, I don't think he'll be serving jail time for this. I do think he can get jail time if he's found guilty in the D.C. election interference case, and if the Mar-a-Lago case ever goes to trial, and if Fulton County ever goes to trial. But I do think he can get house arrest. That could be an option.
Okay. I don't know what any of that means. He's under house arrest at Mar-a-Lago anyways. He barely leaves the place, right? So, I mean, were they going to put him in house arrest at Mar-a-Lago? Are they going to do it at Trump Tower? I mean...
Yeah, it'll be the gold-plated ankle bracelet.
Yeah. So, house arrest. Does he have to stay in the apartment? Does he get to go downstairs? There's Gucci in the basement? I mean, come on.
This is uncharted territory.
Yeah.
No one's ever been down this road before in our country, so we just don't know. We're all guessing.
You said something very interesting. You said if it goes to trial, you think it'll be delayed? The other cases are going to be delayed. Why? Because it's too close to the election. Too close to the election, and they don't want that James Comey situation?
I never thought the Mar-a-Lago documents case would get to trial before the election when Judge Aileen Cannon was assigned the case. She's new. She's been giving a lot of deference to Donald Trump, so that wasn't happening. Now, Fulton County, I thought that would be hard too because you have all these RICO counts that are very time extensive. It takes a long time to try these cases, and a bunch of co-defendants. And then you have the whole issue with Fonnie Willis. So that's not going to trial before the election.
Yeah.
But then you have the D.C. election interference case. That case should go to trial, but the Supreme Court put the kibosh on it for now. So I'd say there's like a 20% chance that goes to trial.
You think the Supreme Court is helping him out?
Yeah.
They're delaying on purpose? Because they were asked,
Yeah.
Jack Smith said, take the case. They said no, and I think he asked again, and then they said no, and then finally, somehow, they decided to do it, but they said, I'm not going to do it in February, we'll do it in April, and yet, so here we are.
Not only did they delay it, they waited until the last day of their calendar to have the oral arguments.
Right.
So I'm not going to cast aspersions upon the Supreme Court, especially when you have Clarence Thomas, whose wife was involved with January 6th, voting on this matter. But I do think that their actions have put their thumb on the scale because that's Trump's best defense in D.C. Delay this till past the election.
Yeah, but you as a prosecutor, or you're an attorney, you know that often the best answer is the most obvious answer, right? And so, but you just don't want to say that.
No, I don't want to say it because I'm a lawyer, a sitting state attorney, and you get in trouble when you specifically criticize judges.
So Keith Davidson will be back. You said you think he was damaging because he corroborated what David Pecker said. Yeah. He's going to be back on the stand. What do we expect? Further damage here?
Oh yeah. I mean, what a clever.
It's Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal that he was attorney for.
That's right. Yeah, you asked what to expect. I think of Clubber Lang from Rocky III. Remember?
Yeah.
What's your prediction? pain. I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, this Davidson is a good witness.
Yeah. Was that the biggest testimony from Tuesday? Do you believe the last time that they were in court is that he corroborated what David Pecker said?
Yes, yes. And it's too bad that Dylan Howard is not able to come here from Australia, because the most damaging text of all, and Davidson had some damaging text, but the most damaging text comes from Dylan Howard, who was part of the National Enquirer. He's an Aussie, he's over there, and he apparently can't travel for health reasons, and so they're not going to be able to admit this really damning text where he admits that this was all about the election, and he's hoping that he'll get a presidential pardon for his campaign finance violations.
Why can't they admit it?
Because he's unavailable. The court says, yeah, you don't have to testify, you're sick, you're in Australia, so we'll do it without you.
Is there any way to get it in? Come on, I watch Law and Order. There's always something.
Yeah, perhaps if you can get the person he sent it to authenticate the text, but the judge apparently and the prosecutor is saying, yeah, we're not going to have it in. We don't need it.
I heard you on MSNBC talking about Hope Hicks, and you said you believe that the importance of her testimony from unwavering Trump ally Hope Hicks, that it is important. Why do you expect this testimony to be so important?
Hope Hicks was in the room where it happened. She flew on Air Force One. She was part of the conversations with Michael Cohen and David Pecker, apparently, when they talked about this whole hush money deal. So when they say Donald Trump knew nothing about it, well, when Hope Hicks was involved in it, why would she be involved in it if the boss didn't know? She was like a right hand to him. She was steaming his clothes on Air Force One while he was wearing them.
Yeah.
So she is an insider. Also, she has no axe to grind. That's the thing. Like, Trump can point to Michael Cohen and say, you hate me, and so they can't believe what you say. Hope Hicks is a loyalist to Trump, so when she corroborates Michael Cohen, it's extra powerful.
Do you think she's going to dime him out? I mean, I think she has to tell the truth, obviously, right? She's going to be under oath.
Also, yeah, apparently she spoke freely to the grand jury under oath, and so she has a different story now under oath this time. She could be charged with perjury. There's nothing for me to think that she's going to lie. I think she's going to tell the truth.
Okay, so then what, you don't think she has credibility issues as a witness? If she lied once and now you believe she's telling the truth, isn't the defense going to say, aren't the defense going to say, well, you lied then, what,
Well, it's a good point, because
how do we know you're not lying now?
Right. Well, we don't know exactly what she said to the grand jury because that's secret, but the prosecutors are putting her on the stand because they know what she said to the grand jury, and they think she's going to say the same thing here at this trial, which will help the state. The one problem with Hope Hicks, though, is that she did say during congressional testimony, when Democrats were grilling her, that she wasn't involved, didn't know anything. So the defense may come back and use that, say, hey, are you telling the truth now? You're lying then? You're lying now? Yeah, that could happen. But I still think she's the best witness for the state because she is a loyalist to Trump. And so that's going to really help in the eyes of the jurors.
Okay, but even Pecker said, I still look at him as a friend and a mentor. And she probably still looks at him that way as well. And in order for you to really testify against a mentor, it's got to be true because you don't really want to do it.
Right. The only flaw with Pecker's testimony, I think it's been excellent, is that he's under an immunity deal. So that's where the defense says, aha, you're lying to protect your own hide.
But Hope Hicks is not.
Correct.
And you still think she's credible?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the Supreme Court currently ruling whether the president is immune to all of this stuff. Most of the conservative judges, if you listen to the oral arguments, it seems like they're trying to make an excuse somehow when we talked about this, the delay tactics. But when you're listening to the oral arguments, what did you make of it? I thought that, gosh, what's her name? The newest...
Amy Coney Barrett?
No, the newest Supreme Court justice.
Oh, Ketanji Brown
Jackson. I thought she was extremely strong when, pushing back or trying to at least understand what Trump's attorneys were proposing there. So what do you make of the oral arguments here?
Well, I'm a big fan of Justice Jackson. I went to high school debate with her. I did high school debate in college and law school. She's outstanding.
Yeah.
She ran circles around me in high school debate, as you can understand.
I listened to her over and over last night, and I was like, I can't, that's why I didn't get much sleep too, because I listened to her, and I thought it was fascinating. Basically, she was saying, you're not making any sense. She kept going back at him, and he kept saying, well, I mean, I guess so if it's that way, but sorry, go on.
Well, there are 4 justices who are on her side. You got the 3 liberals and Amy Coney Barrett,
right,
who agree that this is ridiculous. What are we doing here? The problem is that you've got 4 justices on the other side who want it.
Thomas,
Clarence Thomas, Alito,
Gorsuch.
Kavanaugh, and Gorsuch.
Yeah.
swing justice is going to be Chief Justice Roberts, and he's so concerned about the perception of the Supreme Court as apolitical. Well, here's your chance now, man. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to say that there is some level of presidential immunity for official acts. But the easy answer would be, but that doesn't exist here, because when a candidate for president tries to meddle in an election, it's not an official act. In the Constitution, elections are run by the states, not the federal government. This should not be an easy answer. This should not be a hard answer.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court has already said that the 2020 election was secured, that there was no fraud, that Joe Biden was elected and Donald Trump was not.
Right.
So then, where do they go from here? How can they say no?
They're not going to give Trump absolute immunity, but what they could say is, here's the new standard, the new test for future judges who have situations like this. And now, you, Judge Chutkan, you've got to examine this case in light of these new standards.
Does that give him an out, sort of?
No, he's not going to win on this, but he can win by losing, by delaying this matter. So when the Supreme Court sends it back to Judge Chutkan, they could say, now hold a hearing, an evidentiary hearing on this, this, and this, and that will delay matters. But there's a silver lining in that, Don. If that's what happens, that means the case will not happen before the election, but that evidentiary hearing will happen, and that's where you see the prosecution's case in front of the public, all the damaging information they have against Trump, and that will get into the public's consciousness before the election.
Do you think his supporters will care about that?
No,
They're barely watching what's happening in Manhattan in that courtroom. They say they don't care. They would vote for him even if he went to jail.
Yeah, but you can't persuade the unpersuadable. These folks are never going to listen to reason or facts, but you can persuade the small number of swing voters that are still out there, and that's all it takes to swing an election.
Are you surprised that there doesn't seem to be that much interest in this from the public? I mean, there's some interest, but one would think like everybody would be paying attention. Is it because there are no cameras in the courtroom? What do you think?
Yes. Of all cases, this is the one you would need cameras in the courtroom.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Because antiquated laws, the federal government doesn't allow cameras in the courtroom, and some states like New York.
Yeah. So Tuesday, the former president comes out every single day after, whether there's adjournment or for recess, and he'll say, I can't believe I'm sitting here. I should be out on the campaign trail. He was off on Wednesday, and he went to battleground states like Wisconsin and Michigan to rally his supporters. So listen, he's able, I think, to campaign. He's saying, I don't have the opportunity to campaign. I'm sitting here in a courtroom. I shouldn't be here. But he really has the opportunity to campaign every single day when he goes in front of those cameras, and on an off day when he goes to these battleground states or wherever it is that he's going. He's getting this free media, right? So I think actually it could be helping him, at least publicly, getting his message in front of the folks.
It could be. Nothing fuels Trump and the MAGA movement more than grievance and martyrdom. And that's why he's there saying, the courtroom is too cold. Oh, no, that's terrible. Or the proceedings are moving too fast. He's now complaining that Judge Merchan is moving too quickly. Remember when jury selection happened quickly? Well, hold on, man. I thought you wanted to get on the campaign trail. I thought that you were worried this was taking too long. Which is it?
He wants to delay it.
Yeah, exactly. He wants to delay it. But either way, he's going to complain about something. Corrupt judge, Democrats on the jury. So it doesn't matter what happens. He's going to spin his own narrative. That's why we needed cameras in the courtroom, because he can go out and say, this is what happened today when it didn't happen today.
Dave will be watching. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you joining us. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching The Don Lemon Show. Make sure you click on the image in the top right to subscribe to my channel and the thumbnail in the bottom right to watch more content from my show. And I'll see you next time.